How long did you know that you had an intimate relationship with Cosmodore?
About 2 weeks. I should have answered that immediately, shouldn't I?
you thought about it. That's actually much more interesting than the answer. You had to think about it. Yeah, tea, be cuddled.
About 2 weeks.
About 2 weeks.
It didn't get physical yet, but...
I'm assuming I gotta do my intro.
You do, because it's your channel.
Why is it my channel? Take my channel.
No, I have my own channel.
You have 2 channels. Well, if you only have $1, you're gonna be like, oh, I already have $1. I don't want
Jay, what
$2.
am I gonna do with your channel? Okay, I'm just now.
Meme it.
I mean, no. Why would I do that?
So the reason why so if you had my channel,
Yes.
if you had my channel, you would not meme my channel.
No.
Why not?
I wouldn't meme anyone's channel.
But if you had the channel, like if it's already out of my possession, you had it. You're telling me you wouldn't meme it?
No. Why would I do that?
You just let it die?
No, I'd just upload more video. I'd be like, hey, I'm ALPHAJ now.
Well, if you think about it, you can just say, hi, I'm Shadowstreak of the ALPHAJ show, because it's still a show. It's just that
and you know
I'm
what
not
the best
person
part
on
is?
it.
It wouldn't be redundant.
What?
It wouldn't be redundant. I'd be the Shadowstreak of the ALPHAJ show. It wouldn't be...
Why would you be the Shadowstreak? Why wouldn't you just be Shadowstreak?
I thought that was mandatory.
No, I'm the ALPHAJ.
Yeah,
You're
I know,
Shadowstreak.
but do I have to say... Well, technically, I'm a Shadowstreak if we're going by my handle.
But that makes absolutely zero sense because your YouTube channel is Shadowstreak.
Right, but I thought
my YouTube channel is the ALPHAJ show. Right?
I mean, yeah, but you
your Twitter
when people
handle
think
is
your
a
name, they
Shadowstreak.
think of ALPHAJ. They don't think of, well, okay.
No, they think of freaking Alpha, which
Well,
only one person has permission, and it's Phantom Strider. He's the only person who can call me Alpha. He's the only person.
not Pie Guy.
That's it. No.
No,
No one else.
just him.
Yes, just him.
Well,
Just him. It is. Look, if someone came up to you and said, "Hey, Streak," you're gonna be like, "No."
right.
Shadow, Jay,
No,
Jason.
I don't go by.
Cool.
I don't go by either of those two. I'm just Shadow now. I'm either Shadow. I'm Shadow.
What do
Streak.
you mean? I see it on the stream all the time.
Yeah, and I tell people, call me Shadow. Why? Because you're Jay. I don't want people calling me Jay anymore because you're Jay, and we're like so associated with each other. It's annoying. I don't want to have the same name as you, so I'm just like, call me Shadow, please.
But you used to be called Jay, and it's unfair of me to be like, you cannot be called Jay anymore because I'm called Jay.
No, but I'm like, you know what? It's like, it's fine because I've always the number one name I respond to is Shadow, and the second name I respond to is Shadowstreak, and the third name I respond to is I don't have a third name I respond to actually. It's mostly those first two are the two I really go by. But some people call me SS.
SS.
Some people call me
SS. Really?
Well, they don't call me that, but they like abbreviate it in like
because I can see
the
like
chats. They'll do like
I can
SS
actually see
for
like
Shadow
another SS review. Like I can see that, but I can't see someone saying "Hey SS." Like what?
Well, yeah. It's like an abbreviation.
Well,
text,
I mean,
not
even
verbally.
text "Hey SS." I don't know. That seems pretty weird. If someone said "Hey AJ," I'd be like, "You're not talking to me. I'm not answering to that." Well, yeah, I would also be that, and I wouldn't answer to that.
Well, wouldn't you be TAJS?
No, that just seems pretty weird. You know what would really help though?
What?
If we stop wasting everyone's time. We have a lot of topics.
We have
a
one
lot of
topic,
topics.
Jay. What are you talking about?
I mean, you just totally just cut off my entire thing. I was gonna say, and by a lot of topics, I mean one big topic that is split up into multiple different episodes. But you know what, Shadow?
I'm sorry.
You want to do it?
Jay,
you want to do the podcast?
I ruined it. I ruined everything.
You really did.
Jay, I'm sorry.
I had something going.
I
had a streak going. I haven't even messed up any of my sentences like I usually do.
Jay, I'm sorry.
You know how many sentences I mess up in recording? And like here, I've been going on for 7 minutes. I haven't messed up a single sentence yet. I know I will at some point. And you cut me off there. I don't even.
What have I done?
This is already off the rails.
What have I done?
I don't know. We made a pact. We made a pact early on Castoon to never stop recording. Or streaming.
Shush. You do realize that podcast is lost now, right?
It's lost media.
And no one's going to know about it except for the 20 people that were in that chat that night.
Well, do you have the live stream archive for them? Or did you take it down? You took it down.
I have it privated.
You have such little faith in our audience. Our audience loves us. More you than me, but our audience loves us.
It's on your channel. What are you talking about?
Shadow, listen to me. The first one came out, and it was a pretty risky move, and it did surprisingly well.
It did.
Second one came out, pretty risky, about the community, did surprisingly well. Third one came out, it was pretty late at the time, and it was about specifically a YouTuber, did surprisingly well. And I just realized something, and I'm going to have to clarify it now. So, the Castoon that we haven't put out is the Castoon talking about Apple and Onion, Infinity Train, and Craig of the Creek. So you'll need to get that memorized. We were talking about all the new Cartoon Network shows that either have a pilot or a show attached to it, like an episode attached to it. And we unfortunately never got the final space. We were going to get the final space in the next podcast. But the thing is, and the Channel Awesome thing happened, and then we were going to talk about that. And now all of those podcast episodes, it's not relevant.
It's no longer topical.
I keep thinking, I don't even know why I keep thinking out of touch. They're not out of touch. It's not like a person, but pretty much all of those are gone. So now the final space episode, quote unquote, that we were making because we wanted to dedicate a podcast to Final Space because we didn't get to cover it when we were talking about new Cartoon Network shows, is this, which means that the next podcast we most likely have to go back and talk about those 3 shows again.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, Castoon has been a lot of rearranging episode order.
We're still trying to work out the kinks.
So today we're actually going to be going through all of the episodes individually, and I do want to get this out of the way in the beginning, so there is no questions about this. Shadow has covered this before. I will link that video in the description below. He has talked about Final Space, and I know I have been requested to talk about it as well, and I will as a review video in the future. But since it's not going to be coming out anytime soon, I thought it'd be really cool to just talk about all of Final Space because it has been renewed for a second season, and because of where it ends up, and this is probably the best time to say this, spoilers, for the love of God, spoilers, because of where episode 10 ends up, so now is the best time to talk about it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So these episodes don't have names, they just go by chapters, and that's pretty weird. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to be doing this entire Castoon episode 4. Really hope this is 4.
It's 4.
Unless something weird pops up and we have to cover that immediately. Alright, chapter 1. This is pretty much all about Gary carrying out his final days as his 5-year prison sentence aboard the Galaxy 1, where he meets Mooncake, a little green alien. He swears to keep Mooncake safe, but little does he know that Mooncake is one of the most dangerous. Let's use dangerous. Super weapon out there. even though it hides behind an adorable face. I've mentioned this in, I believe, my Infinity Train video, where I was talking about how not every character has to be bubbly happy the way that Star Butterfly was season 1, at least from what I've seen. The way that Steven is, the way that Finn was, the way that KO is, the way that SpongeBob is, the way that Lincoln is. Like, we don't need every character to be overly optimistic. We can have some characters be pessimistic, realistic, or even arrogant. You know, we can have characters that are really full of themselves. We have main characters that are like that. And that's probably what attracted me a lot to Gary. I feel like he has a really great personality. When I watched Final Space, I think Gary was as close to a perfect execution as I think anyone would ever get. Down to the voice actor, all of the animation that was assigned to the show. Love the colors in the animation in the show, by the way. To the way that he was animated, the way that he looked, the actions he took. I really feel like it was as close to being perfect as humanly possible. So I just want to get that out of the way. Gary, amazing. And that initial cookie scene, it kind of shows how much of an ego he has. Like stories generally start out with. A lot of movies, you generally start out with the hero thinking that he's already there. When he's not there, he kind of has to lose something, or he has to be around adversity before he starts to grow thicker skin. And I think that's probably very cookie cutter, but it works. It's tried, it's tested. Now, Kevin has this very bubbly personality, which kind of bounces off of Gary's delusion, his calmness. And the fact that he named robots says quite a lot. He also ended up naming Mooncake, which in the beginning I kept confusing with moon pie. Mooncake is not a moon pie.
No, they're two completely different things.
I wrote down moon pie several times during this, so if I say moon pie, Shadow, just say, it's not moon pie, it's mooncake.
All right, I'll call you out.
He's a prisoner, not a captain. That was also a pretty great twist. Quinn is also mentioned, and she appears to be a really neat character in the flashback. And also, what was he stealing? Because it appeared that he was stealing a gem of some kind.
I don't know if that's ever answered.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever answered. We also have the bathroom scene where he buys that thing, and unfortunately for me, I didn't know what he swallowed, what he put into that man's mouth, because the only time I've ever seen that machine in a bathroom was during the time when Hurricane Irma happened, and I was driving up to North Carolina, and we went into one of these, I don't know which, I guess you'd call it a gas station. It had more stuff in it. Clearly it was adjusted for road trips, and there was protection in that machine in the bathroom. So initially, that's what I thought he put into that guy's mouth, and then put toilet water in his. And he said that he helped him doing that. No, and I never understood that.
When I saw that happen, I thought he was like pouring soap down the guy's throat to kill him. I thought Gary was like, you're a good guy, Gary, as he's like freaking killing this guy by making him digest soap. That's what I thought he was doing.
That, and then we later learned that it was aspirin, but there was no indication. I had
no idea. I literally, I was under the impression he killed a guy. I mean, sure, he put him in a coma for several years, but
yeah, yours is a lot better than mine.
I thought he was dead.
Because I was thinking, because it is an adult show, so I was thinking, did he really swallow that? that kid.
Oh my god.
Okay, and then we get the ship gun scene.
I love that moment so much.
I was just thinking, okay, so you're telling me, think of a DualShock PlayStation controller. Mm-hmm. You have two. You're telling me. Now I played Sly Cooper 1, and in the first boss, during the first boss, which is a giant frog guy, one of the missions you have to do in order to get up to him is this mission where you have to protect. You're in this room where it's a whole bunch of water, and these crabs are coming to get a certain item. I forgot what that item was. And one Joy-Con was to move, or joystick was to move, and the other one was to shoot. Now, that was PlayStation 1. This is the future. You're telling me that there was no safety or anything like that. It was funny, don't get me wrong. And this entire thing was funny. And I feel like the reason this thing was really funny was because it came from a YouTuber who is not assuming what kids would find funny or what teenagers or adults would find funny, but instead takes what he thinks is funny and puts it in the show. Because there are other shows like Billy Dilly's Super Subterranean Summer. Now that's the show that I need to get to. That show is written by someone who has wrote for SpongeBob for a long time, so far be it from me, right? All of the jokes that are told in that I have heard in other shows. So it's not, so that's actually a show that I feel like would be like the anti this when it comes to the theory of why it's so humorous. I found it interesting that Gary thought that Mooncake was attacking him because Gary is so used to pain, it looks like, in the first episode at least. From watching it, because I watched it incrementally. And I found that really interesting because obviously his hand got crushed when he was reaching for the cookie. And he also got shot out of bed. So it did really feel like he was adjusted to pain and he thought he was being attacked.
Right.
Lord Commander had a great intro into the actual series. I felt like his whole thing was pretty well because I felt like it built off of the fact that he is small, but he's clearly a villain. He clearly isn't Lord Commander for no reason. And Mooncake is also pretty great as well. Also, the security for Galaxy 1. I don't know if it's above average, or below average, because it seems to waver between those. Those guys who are there to secure Galaxy 1 when people are invading to get Mooncake. If they aren't equipped to handle those guys, then it would be really easy to escape if someone wanted to bust out Gary. So that was pretty interesting. I never truly understood the dynamic of Gary being a prisoner within a ship that he controlled. Because if he can control hyperspeed, why couldn't he get a cookie?
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
So he's been a prisoner aboard the ship for about 5 years. In the show, it's shown like at the beginning that he's like repairing satellites and he's like, doing typical prisoner work. Now, I don't know if he can actually control the ship to lightfold and stuff. There is the scene where they're being attacked and he makes Hugh do it, but I think it was done because they were being attacked, which is why he allowed it, but he still got a week added onto his sentence anyways. I don't know, like there is some freedom there, but it's not like clear-cut defined.
Yeah, it seemed the way, it was in this gray area.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like as it progresses, he's still able to get away with doing things, because it's like, in the second episode, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but in the second episode, he just straight up leaves. But like, yeah. And I mean, like, we can get there when we get there momentarily, but like, he just straight up leaves, and it's like, okay, well,
yeah, it would. Well, yeah, we shouldn't.
Yeah, because I still have stuff to say about the first episode before we get there, but
the defenders, how they were attacking the people who are invading the ship had a better personality than Kevin so far. The way that, they get hit or their arm gets cut off and they just go all out.
Right.
Found that great.
Right.
Hugh, huge downer in episode 1, but it works. And I do think the bond between them is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy the pacing and also the cards thing. I never understood the cards thing, but everything seemed to have worked. It didn't take away from anything. They had a really great back and forth. Gary and the prisoner, Avocado, who was the last person left on the ship when they went into hyperspeed. And the cookie scene comes back again, and he actually ends up getting a cookie by this time reaching his second hand in, which makes you think, why didn't he do that the first time? And I also feel like the webcam at that time in episode 1 was going to be a big thing. I was right. It was a big thing. And then the Lord Commander at the end was a great touch.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
let me see.
Anything I'm missing?
Oh, there is, going back to the bar scene, there is one thing where Gary is attempting to pick up Quinn, and she's working on this
Calculations.
This calculation, because there's like a shift in like Planck's constant isn't working or whatever. I forget the exact details, but regardless, that becomes important later, so it's worth pointing that out.
Yes.
Aside from that, you pretty much covered everything. I mean, I just love Mooncake because Mooncake's adorable.
There was also something else I typed down. The rock scene was so great. Forgot the rock scene, though.
The rock scene, the asteroids, where...
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the entire thing.
Yeah.
With the orbit. Yeah, I actually didn't enjoy that scene. Probably should have put asteroids instead of rocks.
Well, they're space rocks. Same thing. But... yeah, I did like that because it was the first showcasing of Mooncake's like powers. And I mean, I've said this before, I say it again. One of the reasons why I love Powerpuff Girls so much is because of these cutesy, cuddly little things, and then they're like these super, ultra, mega powerful like beings of destruction. I've always loved that aesthetic where it's like, you know, soft in appearance but like deadly in execution or whatever. I've always loved that kind of character, so that's why Mooncake's my favorite.
Are you gonna get a Mooncake plush?
I was about to say I still haven't gotten one, but I need to get one soon.
I was thinking about pre-ordering it because it's out for pre-order, which leads into Chapter 2. The intro for Chapter 2 builds up the same thing as Episode 1, the eventual what happens. We also get a Paris thing, which is when Gary wants to know what would Hugh do in his last moments if he could do anything. He would get into I forgot the specific word, so I'm just going to replace it with a being that he can transfer into and visit Paris. Gary would, if he can do anything, he would do anything with Quinn, and they would build off of that a lot in the later episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Then I also reinforced that, yes, the webcam, it's going to be a really big thing. I found the noise that Avocado made when he got slapped hilarious when Avocado went after Mooncake. Because I see I wrote Moon Pie right here in episode 2. The stealth bot comes in and scans Moon Pie, like I put there.
Okay.
But no camera sees him before that, I guess. I mean, I know it's a stealth bot, but the stealth bot wouldn't... I feel like the stealth bot wouldn't be seen.
How did it get inside? Wouldn't Hugh have detected it inside? Like,
I feel like...
I don't know.
Cameras would see it because he didn't see it until it scanned something.
Right.
We see more of Quinn and also a new character whose name escapes me, Tribor. So there's this sort of weird trust with Hugh and Gary, and it builds up a lot towards the end. I like the music they have when they reach this new area. In fact, the music overall. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Like, not every cartoon has to have electronic dance music. You know, Unikitty has it, and I guess it works there. I know Teen Titans Go wavers between that and other areas as well. Steven Universe has it. I feel like we can expand, and this doesn't necessarily... I feel like this works, but you know, with space themes, people generally go for an orchestra anyway. But it would have been also just as easy to go the electronic route. Avocado is also building up character in this episode, and I find it a little cliche that Homo sapiens get a bad rep. Like, I feel like a show one of these days should kind of point that out and go, Homo sapiens, we never heard of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like just something else. Like, it's always that they're stupid or bad, just a bad reputation overall. I also wrote down the word street meat because street meat. Also primate, because that's what this guy who is named Clarence. I'm gonna go with Clarence. Yeah, Clarence. His name is Clarence. Yeah, Clarence calls Gary a primate. And that suit he gave him was really disgusting, but also very funny.
It was a fresh dead corpse, you know? It was great, man.
It was pretty bad. I don't know if I would have went.
It was pretty dope.
I would have just went back and ordered more street meat.
I mean, honestly, I'd just be like, you know what? I don't have any papers. Just kill me. I'm not getting in that thing. No way.
Also, that fight with Turk was both interesting and funny because I didn't think Avocado would have enough power to defeat Turk.
I just thought it was funny how he shocked him, and then he just kind of stands there and watches. He just sits there screaming in pain as he's just constantly getting shocked.
Yeah, that took a lot longer than I believe he thought. And then and then Gary just gets knocked over.
Yeah.
The Melanie scene was comedy gold.
Oh, it was so gruesome, though.
He got kissed on the mouth by this alien dude. And it was not a regular kiss. It was an alien slobbery kiss. Like... And they pulled number one. Okay, I get it. You know, when you're dead, like, and your skin may become a little looser and probably easier to rip. But still, those kids were expected.
They ripped their mom in half.
They kind of they could have stopped.
Like, oh my god.
They could have stopped a long time ago, and they didn't. They went full on force. No. And that guy took a dead skin sack of the person he married really easy, because I thought Gary was going to get really hurt there, but he didn't. I do enjoy Avocado's character development with him finding his son, Little Cato, and then realizing that it's a trap. But what was even more gold was the scene in which Gary confronts Lord Commander, and in the process we have both Avocado coming to save him, because at this time they're not really they're friendly, but their bond hasn't really it hasn't solidified yet. And in the process, Gary's arm gets ripped off. Now that's very important because that robot arm comes back quite a bit.
Yep.
The action in this episode is fantastic, especially with that callback to the Melanie scene where they fall onto the family's ship and his arm is still there. So his arm is gone, rotting somewhere. And also, we have revealed that a bounty hunter who is looking for Mooncake is Quinn, but a different version of Quinn. Would it be fair to say I guess a different timeline? Different timeline?
Yeah, it'd be a different,
or a different dimension.
Yeah, it would be a different timeline. It'd be a different timeline, as explained later on. But yeah.
And then the ending scene with friendship, that's just the best scene of the episode, where they kind of explain, you know, like Avocado's seeing this and he's wondering why Gary wouldn't want to help him. But little does he know that Gary has been alone on the ship for 5 years. So any sentient bond that he can create that's not Kevin is fantastic to him.
Right.
I found that to be the best scene of the episode. And that's pretty hard to top when you consider someone's arm got ripped off. And he really hammed it up when his arm got ripped off. And for good reason, because that was a lot of blood. And that's also your arm getting ripped off. And also the Melanie scene.
Absolutely. I completely agree. As for the second episode, for the most part, it's pretty good. You should also, it's also worth mentioning that Quinn gets her kind of side story in this episode. Or am I thinking of the next one? No, it's this one.
Where she calls everyone
where she notices that the ship crashed. There was a ship that crashed nearby. And
and she wants to know why.
And she's trying to figure out why, and she realizes that there's some sort of breach, though she doesn't know everything about it yet, so she goes to the council of the Infinity Guard, and they all just kind of laugh at her and send her on her way. So she goes rogue and flies away in her own ship to go solve the problem herself, which leads into the third episode. But yeah, overall, I think the second episode's still a very, very solid episode. I love the darker humor that it goes with. Like, again, the kids literally killing their mom, basically. Finding this random white dude inside, like, hey. But, yeah. It had a lot of good jokes. It really establishes Avocado, what he's kind of fighting for, trying to get his son. And, you know, that's his highest priority. I really like the bond that he and Gary develop as it goes on. Because it was surprising at first because they did the handshake thing, but it's like...
The clasp.
I don't know, part of the clasp, yes. Part of me was thinking Avocado would betray Gary the second that he would, like, let him go. But no, like, they actually went together to the planet. They were on the same side. Now, sure, Avocado was betraying him to the Lord Commander momentarily, but, like, everything before that, I was actually surprised that Avocado stuck with him that whole time. I was honestly expecting a betrayal sooner than that, but no, that was a different twist than what I had expected. But yeah, overall, I'd say episode 2 was definitely a good solid entry, just like episode 1 was.
Which leads into episode 3. The intro is also the same as episode 1, and it builds up that eventual what happens. Now, who gave Avocado's son that thing? And also, did he come in here to say just that? That was my initial question, as Avocado's son was given a small portable electronic sci-fi device. A webcam comes back, and Avocado goes back to being a bit more mean than before, actually. And also, it shows that at a certain point, Gary could not control the robot arm, even though that would never happen again. So I'm assuming it was just for the lulz.
My guess is it's because it was like he had just freshly gotten it. He couldn't completely control it yet. I mean, we can just pretend it's like, oh, well, over time he just got used to it. But it's like, it's never really acknowledged. So you could say it's just for the joke. Depends on how you look at it, I guess.
We also get to hear the words pressed hams.
Oh, yeah.
The moon pie was funny.
Mooncake.
It was a funny joke involving moon pie. The time disruptions joke was funny with the whole, even though you go in further, if you go further in time, the sentence that you have is still the same, despite the fact that you went further in time. I found that pretty funny.
I did too.
Lord Commander confronted a High Helper Hula, and I would have thought that Lord Commander would have been less powerful than this High Helper Hula. Little did I know, Lord Commander is most likely the most powerful of this space, of this dimension. I would have thought the other guy was, or at least not be able to be hurt so easily. And we also learned that Lord Commander is slowly getting hurt without Mooncake, but needs him for something at that point, I suppose.
Right, and every time he uses his powers, he weakens himself.
We also have, for the first time, Gary giving in, letting Mooncake hide out somewhere. Because at this point, Gary kind of just kept taking chances, even when he had a 0% chance, unless Mooncake helped him out. Yarno looked super interesting. I actually found the world design for Yarno to be really nice. And the helpers are insane. I found that entire scene with the helper being really sketchy. That was a really nice scene. Everything about it was really well done. Everyone was in peril, whether it was Mooncake, whether it was Quinn, whether it was Avocado and Gary. Even Lord Commander, in a sense, was in peril. So this was an episode where it showed everyone had a different struggle for something, which leads into a mind puzzle where Gary and Avocado would end up in. And I found that to be very interesting because towards the end, where Gary and Avocado were nearing towards this lava pit, and we saw that there was Quinn and Little Kato to try to dupe them into getting closer so that they fall into the lava. I found it interesting that Gary said, "I don't want to wake up." So at that point, I felt like he kind of wanted to take what he can get with Quinn. Also, at this point, I also realized that Gary has never seen Mooncake attack anything. Because when Mooncake attacks something, it's a pretty big attack. We also get to at this episode, we get to see what final space means, which I'm still pretty shaky on. I'm not 100% sure, but pretty much there is a space in which Gary and all the others are in, but there's also an inner space, and then there's final space, and in final space, Shadow can correct me if I'm wrong, lies all of these titans in which they rule their own dimensions. And that is the ultimate goal of Lord Commander. He wants to become a Titan, and he's using Mooncake to get there so that he can rule a dimension, or all of the dimensions, as he would later say, when he finally gets to that point.
That's correct.
For Quinn, they kind of we didn't see a lot of scenes with her. It kind of felt like, because I believe, if I'm right, this is the episode where she goes off on her own, and she has to escape the Affinity Guard because they're chasing after her because she hijacked the ship, right?
Yeah.
That's chapter 3.
Yep.
Avocado and his son, that whole bit was truly sad. And also, we see that Moon Pie does not want to be used for evil. That's also pretty sad. And then the ending came out of nowhere. But I'll let Shadow talk more about that.
If I can mention a few things before that. Going back to the part where Avocado and Gary are trapped in, like, the mind puzzle thing. God, that one part where Gary just imagines a cookie and Avocado's like, be careful. You don't know what could happen. He's like, oh, I'm just thinking of cookies. It's not like I'm imagining them killing us. And he's like, I want to kill you. I just love that, like, immediately switch, and it just goes to this demonic voice. I don't know why. It's just so funny to me. But
I found that one scene with that one cookie that was not actively trying to kill them with the tridents at that one point. He just jumps off the ledge and he puts his trident and
they just start poking
Gary's
him in the
eye.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously, it's such a funny moment. But I also love seeing Mooncake absolutely decimate all of these, like, creatures in the Colosseum. But yeah, getting towards the end, so Gary and Avocado escape the mind puzzle and get to the Colosseum where Mooncake is blasting through all of these different alien monsters in some sort of battle royale, when the Lord Commander appears because he's found Mooncake after getting the reports from the aliens. I don't remember what if their species was called something.
Yeah.
But and it's really interesting because the two actually kind of, like, duke it out. And Gary once again encounters Lord Commander. It's actually, I think it's interesting, they pull a Star Wars Episode 2 reference in the way the Galaxy 1 kind of comes down with Kevin blasting away at all of the different servants of Lord Commander. And Gary and Mooncake kind of, like, run towards the ship. That's all a Star Wars Episode 2 reference. I thought that was really cool, even though Star Wars Episode 2 isn't all that great. But regardless, it was really cool. But yeah, they ultimately managed to get away after causing a distraction on the Lord Commander. And so Quinn ends up getting captured by the Infinity Guard as well when she's trying to escape them. And they get near an entrance of I don't want to call it an entrance, but like a breach where final space is accessible. And it sucks in the Infinity Guard ship, and Quinn just barely makes it out alive by jumping in an escape pod and zooming off, which is where she sends out a distress signal, and Gary and Avocado pick it up and immediately proceed to go and rescue her, which is kind of where the episode ends off, as well as the Lord Commander kind of recovering from his battle in the Colosseum, where he's constantly seen throughout the series, like, coughing up what I'm assuming to be his own blood.
Yeah.
Because he's dying every time he uses his powers. And he used his powers quite a bit in that encounter with Mooncake, so he definitely weakened himself there, which I thought was pretty interesting as well. The only other thing I think I want to mention is I love the part where they immediately land on Yarno, and there's, like, that really happy guy who greets them. And he's like, hey, welcome to Yarno. And then this huge barbarian dude just runs in and decapitates him, like, immediately. It's, like, amazing. I love that. So funny. Came out of nowhere, and it got me.
I also remember the mooncake joke. It was very, very subtle. Pretty much, Gary was flying up that elevator tube, but Mooncake was directly under him when he had a towel, and Mooncake's face.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mooncake had quite the sight to behold, yes.
Now, Chapter 4 was my favorite until another chapter down the line, so I'm actually going to hand this over to you a lot, because I don't want to gush for too long, because I could. Same intro as before.
Right.
This is a very Quinn heavy episode because the ending for chapter 3, pretty much we have Quinn who's on an escape pod and they go to rescue her. And a lot of this build up is pretty much Gary meeting Quinn for the first time, and as you guys may or may not know, Gary has been sending a daily webcam to Quinn for the past 5 years. So for Quinn to say that pretty much not only does she not know Gary, but she never got any of them, it really did crush Gary. And this entire episode to me, it really did touch me. I really did find Quinn and Gary's connection and chemistry dynamic in this episode to be truly perfect, and I really do hope I get to go into detail, like true detail, analyzing all of it at a later date. I also find it pretty weird that they hacked the ship, but they ended up hacking the ship because Quinn is wanted by the Infinity Guard, because obviously Quinn thinks there's something out there, there's some sort of corruption, but she doesn't want to believe it yet, because her loyalty is to Infinity Guard. I also found the songs they use, like that, not just the music composition, but the actual songs in which we have lyrics to them. I found those to be really great as well. Quinn and Avocados' argument was also pretty great, I believe, because they do argue a few times. So I'm assuming, is this one, because they argue about whether to go to Earth or rescue.
That's episode 6.
Okay, so this one is the one where to figure out who's gonna fight. Yeah, who's gonna fight, and then Kevin's like, I can do it. It kind of reminds me of the Mr. Krabs I have an idea thing. From SpongeBob. Yeah, Kevin would prove himself because at this point he was pretty annoying. He does continue to be annoying, but this episode really at least solidified that he's not just going to be that one tiny speck of why did you put this in the series when otherwise the series is great. He actually proves to be quite needed. That supernova though. Also, this show deals with space in a very creative way. I really do like all the colors that they use, and I really do feel like, and that's probably the biggest reason why I gravitated towards it so much. There's so many fantasy shows out there, including Infinity Train, which is going to come out. And I understand that fantasy is fantasy and everything, and that's so great. But imagine if we can have imagine if you can take, because obviously I'm going to assume that you like Final Space Shadow.
Of course, yeah.
Imagine if you can take this quality, take this quality, right? And enjoyment. What if you can get that out of a Western or a crime or like a mystery or something else? Because it's always a fantasy. Like, can you name a good Western cartoon that's out right now?
Out right now? No. Westerns aren't in anymore.
A good buddy cop that's out right now? A good game show that's out? Cartoon game show that's out right now?
Cartoon game show? Are there even cartoon game shows?
But I'm saying, it's always fantasy.
I mean...
And that's kind of my big thing. That's why I kind of gravitated towards... I mean, yes, there are superhero action shows, but the problem with that is that Cartoon Network isn't necessarily showing them, and also has indirectly shown that they aren't necessarily focusing on them with their main lineup. And I wouldn't necessarily call Teen Titans Go or Powerpuff Girls superhero shows, despite the fact that they are superheroes. There's going to be quotation marks when I say that.
Yeah, no.
But
I wouldn't call them superhero shows either.
So... And I get it.
Not entirely.
I get it. Sci-fi, science fantasy, I get that. But that's clearly, I'm talking about a certain type of fantasy that has been seen and prevalent. Maybe that's why I gravitated towards Final Space a lot more, because it's not that. It's something new. It's sci-fi, which...
It's, yeah.
I believe the last time we saw was Star Wars Rebels, I think, or...
Do you not consider Rick and Morty sci-fi?
I do also consider that sci-fi, but that's also kind of slice of life-ish, where
Rick and Morty's very different in a lot of, like, it does a lot of different things.
It does have sci-fi elements, don't get me wrong, but like it's not full-on sci-fi the way that Final Space is.
Right, exactly.
Where majority of it is set in a sci-fi setting and not a realistic world home setting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess
right, in that regard, yeah.
So I don't know. I appreciate and I welcome these new genres. If we can get a good Western, if I'm going to enjoy the Western, bring on the Western. It doesn't always have to be fantasy, you know? I don't know. That's...
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, I love Gravity Falls, I love Steven Universe, OKKO, Starverses. I get it, you know? It's just sci-fi. Seems pretty interesting.
It is, and sci-fi is definitely one of my favorite genres out there. So, that's why I was immediately... why I immediately caught attention of it.
But I'll let you go on to chapter 4. I want to see what you picked up from this, because this was I can probably go on about the whole couple aspects longer than I need to.
Right. Well, right off the bat, I would like to say that I did like them how Gary rescued Quinn. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes.
And she kind of like the whole like dynamic panorama shots is it's like he's initially reaching out for her, but he like misses and then he grabs her by the back or whatever, and I like the way that camera work was kind of like done there.
Yeah.
And then kind of like pulls her back in. I just think like whenever it's like out in space and it like kind of like rotates around and it looks really good. It's so smooth and, you know, different angles make it look more dynamic. But when he pulls her in and she doesn't like recognize him for anything, that doesn't surprise me because, again, he was with her for a whopping 5 minutes and then he goes off to prison for 5 years and she never received any of his messages. So, you know, it's understandable why she wouldn't remember him. From Gary's perspective, I love when he goes into the hallway and he's like freaking out and moving all around the hallway and he's doing like this weird dance thing while he's doing it too. Like he's not just flailing randomly. He is doing dance moves as he like goes back to his room. He's like on his knees, he's like pointing his fingers up to the roof as he's like flipping out. I'm like it's just like little things like that. Like doesn't even have to be acknowledged. Just the way he moves is funny. Like for real.
That is the dance
it's
of
so good.
Not being recognized for sending 365 times 5 worth of webcams, days worth of webcam footage.
Right. It's a good episode. It's interesting because it's kind of the first episode to be mostly contained in the sense that all of the characters are basically in the same place. Because a lot of the episodes tend to have it does the same thing Rick and Morty does, where
something big,
where there's
like something big chaotic happening.
Yes, and there's also like there's an A plot and there's a B plot. And that's like it's something Rick and Morty does a lot, but this show does it too, where it's like there's a big event going on and then there's typically another thing happening at the ship. But in this one it's like it's all happening at the ship.
Yeah.
And then I mean Gary at one point goes out to harness energy from the sun the star that's about to go supernova.
Yes.
And
that hallucination.
I was about to bring that up. The hallucination scene is so well done. How he like kind of like looks back on his childhood and he's like reliving memories. And I don't want to, God, I'm trying so hard not to just skip ahead to my favorite part. But like the first one, it shows him and his dad and they're kind of, you know, they're watching the rocket on TV and he's like, you know, I'm going to do that someday, you know. It's very touching. And then the second one, he's in his treehouse and he's talking to his dad and his dad's like, I'm about to go on a mission. and he gives him Mooncake, which is the caterpillar, which is what he names Mooncake after, because it's the pet that his dad gave him before he left on his mission. Oh God. And then like we get to the part where Gary sees his dad taking off, and I just love it. Like he says to the caterpillar hallucination, he's like, "Don't make me watch this." And it's like, that cuts so deep. I love it. It just cuts so deep, and it's like you can tell how emotional of a moment. Like, you haven't even seen it happen yet, but like you can immediately know it's like, oh God, this is a big defining moment for him. And it's like, it's one of those things. It's like, it's so simple, yet it's so like meaningful because of the way it's presented and just the delivery. And Olin Rogers is like, you know, not a lot of the time. Sometimes when like cartoon creators voice their own characters as well, sometimes it's a little off-putting, but sometimes it works. And like Olin Rogers voicing Gary works because he knows exactly, and it helps because he was a YouTuber and a performer beforehand, not just a writer but an actor, so he's experienced in this. And just the way he manages to deliver Gary's lines, it's like it's so exquisite. It's so well done.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy it.
But yeah, meanwhile,
I definitely enjoy that.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, while this is going on, again, Quinn and Avocado and Kevin are on the ship, which is being taken over by the Infinity Guard because Hugh's AI was overridden. And Kevin has to go to kind of like this core unit area to insert this chip that will reset the AI. And it's actually shown in the second episode where the chip comes from. It's the alternate timeline version of Quinn puts the chip in Kevin so that he can deactivate the override, which is pretty interesting. So it shows like how the continuity is, you know, flowing through, and you need to pay attention to even the minor actions of some episodes, because like alternate timeline Quinn's whole thing in the second episode all led up to that one chip that Kevin was given that he could use in the fourth episode. And then while that's all going on, we also get to see Lil Kato in the
prison area,
in his the prison, where he receives this transceiver, and he also receives this chip that powers the transceiver from an unknown source that, you know, isn't elaborated on just yet, but he puts them together and he creates this message that he wants to send his dad.
I think you're forgetting something very, very important. It was transported by a plate to the face.
Right. That's true. Yes, because the one cafeteria alien, for lack of a better term, basically just walks in the room and just chucks the plate like right in his face and just gets all over him. It's like, damn, savage. But yeah, overall I think it's a pretty great episode. I like the chemistry between
that hallucination scene. That was a lot. I feel like with Quinn and Gary, plus the hallucination scene, kind of made Chapter 4 at one point my favorite episode, until it was overcome. I also want to point out there was another joke I found pretty funny, and that was when Quinn repeatedly punched Gary because Gary was not taking the hint in the beginning, and every single time he got up, his nose just bled more and more. But he just kept going in for flirting, and it really did not help his case. So we get to Chapter 5, you guessed it, same intro. But he has a small cut. Good thing that small cut actually never comes into play. Like, that leak does not, or maybe it did, I don't know. But that cut never really quickened the pace as to where episode 6, he would have dramatically less time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot more Gary and Quinn drama in this, but I definitely enjoy it. I do think Gary is being really immature, but it really helps with his character. We also see that Quinn trusts the Infinity Guards even though they're after her. Mooncake is amazing in this episode, and also Tiny Avocado is amazing in this episode, as when Gary tries super hard to impress Quinn by crashing onto this planet. I forgot, what was the reason again? Was it to escape the Infinity Guards?
I don't recall. I don't completely recall.
It was for a certain reason.
It was.
But, oh yeah, before I even get to Tiny Avocado, that entire the entire trust thing with Avocado, as we see that Quinn and Avocado, they fought earlier. Quinn trusts Avocado the most because he has weapons, and this dude is just like decked out with weapons that he never ends up using, but it just looks amazing. Gary ends up following them, even telling Kevin, don't touch anything, just fix the ship, because he crashed the ship. Gary crashed the ship, but still, Kevin, don't touch anything. Tiny Avocado is amazing. We also get these weird insects, locusts, a swarm of alien bugs.
Yep.
They look pretty disgusting, but they're supposed to, so there's also that. Which leads to Quinn finding, and everyone else finding, a secret base for a squadron of Lord Commander, and we then see that Lord Commander is on this hologram, and they do remember to bring back the comedy because he doesn't understand how to end it, and he's trying to figure out how to end it, but the guy who was supposed to help him is crying, most likely because he's probably choked out from Lord Commander or something like that. He walks off and it ends, so there's that. They end up going towards the squadron because there is this giant tube leading up into somewhere important. In this area, they learn about what happened to the Infinity Guard. But before that, they have to basically pass through these electrical tubes. Now, that point was also incredibly funny. The way that everyone was screaming, the way that even Quinn screamed. Mooncake screamed at one point, I believe. But we also saw that pain increases Avocado's size because his head increased.
Well, I think it was the same principle that when the bug initially bit him, it did like a shock thing, like an electric shock. And when he regrew in his size, it's because he got shocked by the tubes that were in that really tight area. I figured it was the electrocution was undoing the effect that was given to him by the bug in the first place. That's how I interpreted it, anyways.
All right. Also, during the fight with Avocado's son as he's escaping the prison, as Shadow explained earlier, there is a certain stock scream that the guard has, and that was also pretty cool. We also have where Quinn tries to reason with her old crew, but they all, with very deep voices, by the way, reject pretty much going against their commander, as we then figure out that, yeah, they are corrupted. I didn't get the whole rock, paper, scissors bit. Shadow, you can probably enlighten me on that, because I really didn't understand that.
I didn't either, actually.
I think he was just trying to say something cool for the sake of saying something cool.
Probably.
It also leads to one of the funniest jokes, I believe, in the entire series. The metal hand sliding down the pole. I died at that part because he is absolutely correct. If you get a metal hand, why would you want it to feel things, or at least feel things at that, like, level?
Yeah, like they put nerve endings in the robotic arm. So when he's ziplining down, he's feeling all of that friction in his hand. And it's like, oh my god, that's gotta be brutal.
Because this entire episode, and a few others actually later on, are going to be about building trust with Quinn. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people who would do that for another person. I mean, to be fair, Gary didn't know, but he could have let go at any time. We also get a twist with Little Cato. We see that even though he escaped, it was a double trick, where the person who was helping Little Cato escape was Lord Commander, and he was doing that because he wanted to send Little Cato's message to Avocado so that he can bring everyone to Lord Commander so he can destroy all of them at once. That was a pretty good double twist. And this was a pretty great episode. We also have Quinn rejecting the idea of being a part of Infinity Guard as she realized that pretty much she was working for a lie. And that's when we realized that a lot of this is going to be built off of trust. That's probably the biggest thing between Quinn and Gary, trust. And it will come back a lot in later episodes. Yep. Am I missing anything?
You pretty much covered everything for the most part. The only things I really wanted to add is Mooncake related, because Mooncake's my favorite character, as I said already. But there's one gag where this is right when the Galaxy One is crash landing towards the surface, where it's spinning in like a corkscrew motion in like 360 degrees, and there's this shot of Mooncake just floating there in place while the whole ship spins around him. And he just, I love it. Not just because of that, because he looks around and then he just does this little cute little smile to himself as he just like watches everything else around. It's like It's so perfect. He's just like, oh, look at this. And he's just like floating there like nothing's wrong. It's so good. And then I also love when they're trying to shut down the laser and they're like, Mooncake, fire. Like, just fire the laser off. And then he destroys it, and then it cuts through half a freaking planet. Like,
planet.
Yeah. Like, oh, they're all just like, oh, shit. like, damn. But yeah. I other than those two moments, you pretty much covered everything I would have had to say. So.
Also, I want to say, that guy who was helping out Lord Commander, it felt like he didn't understand what he was helping, because he said, there will be no light, which means there will be no death. And then someone had to explain to him, that's because we're all going to be dead, so of course there's going to be no death after that. He's going to be like, yeah, now, but like, the second or the third, it felt like he didn't understand what he was talking about.
Right.
All right. Chapter 6? Chapter 6.
Yep.
Same intro. Same intro.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed.
Yep, we're going to have the same intro. It's very... Oh, and I should probably also get this out of the way. How did you feel about not just that intro, but the actual theme song intro, because it has dramatically different animation than the original. Maybe you know something about that.
Okay, so I don't know the full story, but I do remember reading up on this a bit. Long story short, I can say with not utmost certainty, but I'm pretty sure if I remember reading correctly, Olin Rogers isn't the biggest fan of the intro itself. Like, it's not the ideal one he had in mind. I don't know the full story behind it, but the intro itself, for those who don't know, it's 3D CGI, unlike the rest of the show, which is, dominantly a 2D cartoon. It's 3D models of all the characters doing various things, such as, Kevin being with Beth the fridge, or a cookie landing in Gary's eye, or the Lord Commander floating down. It's okay. I mean, honestly, I think it's actually one of the weakest parts of the entire show, if I'm being completely honest, just because I don't think the theme song sticks out as well as, like, some of the actual songs in the background. Like, there's actually a song coming up in this episode 6, that's really awesome, and we'll be getting to that soon, but, like, the theme song itself doesn't really stick out to me that much, if I'm being honest.
This is going to be a giant avocado episode. This is the argument I was referring to earlier. They have a dilemma in which, are they going to save Little Cado or are they going to save the Earth? Quinn says, I'm sorry about your son, but the billions of people, their lives are at stake, and it's up to Gary. Gary says, why not both? We can save Little Cado and then save the Earth. Which leads into Quinn having to be tied up, to which she would then get out by convincing Kevin, who wants to kill Gary. Now, that's interesting because every single time Kevin is in front of Gary, very nice. especially because Gary isn't nice to Kevin back at all.
Yep.
So maybe that means something. Mooncake did not want to go and save little Kato, specifically because of the way Gary mentioned it. Mentioned there's gonna be tons of adventure. They might die in the process, but it's gonna be super fun. And the initial hug between Avocado and Gary was the most broiest thing I've ever seen.
I was about to say, that is like mega, like 110% certified bromance to the highest degree.
Just because I know very little people are going to listen this far, would you do that to me?
Yes, Jay, I would.
Okay. The drop to the planet was also incredibly amazing.
That's what I was referring to.
The song
it's
they
so
used,
good. It's so good.
Like, did Gary play it?
Yeah, he had this thing on his. He had this thing in his suit, and he'd hit it, and it would blast the music in both their suits as they planet jumped, and they'd like just dive down. Oh,
is it the left planet, the right planet?
He's like, it's left,
right,
right.
Okay.
Right. Wait, what? And then he just goes right, and they land on the wrong planet. I love that too, because like they land on it, and the planet's like desolate, and they're just like, "You idiot! We landed on the wrong planet." And they just look up, and they're like, "Oh."
It's funny because Gary was like, "Yeah, we landed on the wrong planet." No, we really land on the wrong planet. It's like, oh, and then he wanted to just simply jump from.
Yeah, and he just runs up and jumps and falls off the cliff. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And in the process of that, we actually have Quinn, who has been really apprehensive towards Gary and his advances. Quinn finally gets to see the webcam diary. Like, because Quinn initially was just going to go and save the Earth, but he was stopped. He didn't really need to do that, but this is how we see that he's really ambiguous, because he could be just maintenance, and then at certain other times he could act as a person with opinions, because he does have opinions against Lord Commander. We also have Avocados Backstory, which I'll let you explain.
So long story short, back when the Lord Commander was gaining power and becoming a bigger and bigger threat, Avocado was actually his second in command, and he would serve the Lord Commander to his every whim. But there came a time where the Lord Commander demanded that all of his officers and generals prove their loyalty to him by having them kill their firstborns, and all of them went through with it, as far as we know, except for Avocado, who couldn't kill his son Lil Kato.
Yeah, that was really dark.
It was. It's probably one of the darkest.
That's good.
It's probably one of the darkest things in the entire series, actually.
You want to get dark,
but yeah, and he didn't do it, and so Lil Kato lived, but at the expense of Avocado pissing off the Lord Commander, which didn't really go well.
Now, as you guys know, the whole goal for Avocado, at least, is to reunite with his son. And he does do that, but initially, at least, it's a possessed version of his son, as he was tricked into being really close with Lord Commander, as we realize that Little Kato is probably the only reason why they would come back to fight him head on, at least. That whole part was pretty tense, but it was handled near masterfully. The only part I can pick out a little bit is, and I can't really get on the animators for this, but the whole scene of Lord Commander getting into the brain of Gary, I just felt like they had the idea of this being kind of trippy and everything, and right. I probably can't do it. I can't even think of anything better, but maybe they didn't have the budget to do it, but I don't know. I was expecting a brain blast, you know?
From Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah, just give me you gotta give me something like that, not just his face up close and him talking very calmly.
Right, and he's just like, "Get out of my head! You're not supposed to." Yeah.
We also have.
I know what you mean.
In addition to press hams, we also have worderia, which is what Gary self-diagnosed himself with. in his, I believe his last webcam diary to Quinn. That's the word that he used.
Yep.
And this episode is also a really big episode. Much bigger than episode 5 anyway. Episode 5 was pretty relaxed compared to this.
Yeah. Episode 6 is my favorite in the entire show.
I feel like you should explain the ending.
All right, so basically what ends up happening is after the initial conflict, as Jay described, Avocado gets through to his son by hugging him. So, power of love. Woo. Anyway, yeah. Yeah. So Quinn decides not to ditch Gary and comes back to save him, where Kevin is holding Mooncake and they kind of like blast through the Lord Commander's prison. And actually ends up blasting the Lord Commander several 100 feet down into the ground, which was pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie. Just seeing him like fall all the way down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was cool. And they get away, but the Lord Commander manages to use his telekinesis to send a bomb, a timed bomb. Well, I guess it'd be more of a mine, but regardless. A timed bomb.
The wiki describes it as a sticky bomb, so you
a sticky bomb? Right. Okay. Yeah, I guess a sticky bomb would be proper, but he uses telekinesis to kind of like float it up and land it on Lil Kato's back. And so, you know, and this is what I really love about this ending is like from the instant you see that, you're like, there's a part of you while watching that it's like, okay, these characters need to notice this.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah,
it's drawn out. It's not drawn out too long, but it's drawn out long enough that it's like, guys, there's a bomb on his back. Notice it, please. And it's like you're sitting there and they all arrive in the Galaxy 1 and they're all like hugging and they're happy to see each other. And Avocado is hugging Lil Kato and you're just sitting there like, notice the bomb already. Come on. It's on him. Like, do something. And then like Avocado finally notices it and he's like, he just looks at Gary and he's like, take care of my son. And then he just runs away like to the opposite end of the ship and like drops down and the bomb blows up and, you know, it explodes on him and kills Avocado and his body drifts out into space as Lil Kato like sees his dad, who he was just with for about like 4 minutes of screen time, you know, drifts off into space, dead. And that's the end of Avocado. And
yep.
The episode ends. Every episode thus far has ended with like the credits showing up in the bottom left, and like there'd be the episode would continue on. This is the only. Well, it's not the only one because I believe episode 10 does it as well. But
man,
yeah, but this is one of 2 moments out of 10 that instead of showing multiple shots, it's just one shot continuously the whole way through the credits playing of Lil Kato like sitting in the dark at his father's as his father's like drifting off into space, which is a twist because it's an interesting twist because I didn't think they'd kill off a major character like that like so fast.
I'm pathetic. I went to the wiki. I was like, is he really gone for good? Please don't do this to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
As far as we know,
oh man, that really got to me.
It surprises me because it's like, so this is the first season. It's only 10 episodes long. Like he's in the intro with his son.
Yep.
Right. But like in the show, they're together for a whopping like 4 or 5 minutes.
Yes.
So it's like that. Like the intro is like such a bait and switch as compared to what actually happens, and it's like, wow, that's interesting. I mean, I like that because it's like it sets up this idea and then it completely like subverts your expectations, and I like that it does that.
I really did enjoy, like you really did hit the nail on the head with the whole sticky bomb thing. Like it's on his back and we know it's on his back, so we're just waiting for whatever to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know that it was going to be Avocado.
Yeah, and I think it's extremely well done. That's like, it's why episode 6 is my favorite in the whole series. It's so well done, just everything about it, building the suspense, the fact that like and everything before that, like as we mentioned earlier, the bromance hug is hilarious, and like their final conversation when they're like on the bridge before they go down to the planet, it's kind of foreshadowing. It's like, hey, something's gonna happen, but it's not completely obvious that he's gonna die.
Oh yeah. Also, we also forgot. Like, they kept going into this saying, it's going to be a trap. We know that Lord Commander's on the other side. And Lord Commander's like, haha, I trapped you. And it's like, dude, we kind of
saw this coming. He's like, are you kidding me? I murdered this entire prison setting up this surprise. Like, I thought that was humorous. But
yeah, my favorite episode is coming up.
Let me see. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to point out. I love when they first bust into the prison and they're like guns blazing, they're shooting everywhere, chucking the grenades, and like all the smoke clears and they're like, it's what? Empty. And
they're empty.
Like, there's no one there. And they're like, oh, wait, are you kidding me right now? Like, it's just so good. The humor in this show, like,
it's on point.
When I did my video, for the first 3 episodes that I based my impressions on, I said, most of the jokes hit, but there are a few misses, but like, oh gosh, once like episode 4, 5, 6 came through, it's like, okay, now the humor is really getting good. Like, yeah, it's a funny show. I think it's hilarious. And like, oh man, it's so good. Olin Rogers, he's a comedian and he's a great one at that.
Which leads us into episode 7 or chapter 7. Now, you may be asking, is the intro the same as episode 6?
Yep.
I didn't even write it down because at that point I just knew. It's in there. This is actually, I believe this is the one with where he's really cold, but then he flies in front of a supernova or a sun or something, or a star. It gets incredibly hot.
And it gets warmer. Yeah. I thought it was funny because it's like, oh, it's just the shade.
A lot of emotions in this episode.
And then he just starts burning.
Yeah, this episode is pretty heavy. And I knew that in the back of my mind, I was thinking, like, they probably need some comedy because, when watching these episodes, especially back to back the way that we both did, episode 6 just ends in a really depressing way. And then there is already so much feels with other things. So the whole bathroom thing, I that really didn't do too much when it came to comedy. It didn't really help. I was still feeling the effects of Avocado dying.
No.
And Little Cato was amazing for what he did. I felt like him initially rejecting the advances of anyone, it's a pretty natural emotion. I believe also in this episode, we also have Gary's sentence being complete. So the first thing he does is eat as many cookies as he humanly could, which, that's Gary. Chemistry is amazing in this, by the way.
Yep.
We also get Little Cato listening to Gary after Quinn, of all people, instructs him to talk to Little Cato, seeing as Little Cato was there and he saw everything. So it's not like he doesn't know. He just probably needs someone to talk to. That entire conversation worked well as well. They went into Avocado's room. Little Cato got to see everything. And that entire scene with what was it, a tree? A tree kind of?
The bonsai tree?
Yeah, the bonsai it triggered more guns, and it actually makes me think, when did Avocado get all these guns, or was those guns handed to him because he was on the ship? Because we also see in an episode before he was decked out, but he hides them in there.
Mm-hmm.
Little Cato wants to beat up Lord Commander, and the words he used, I can't do justice to. He uses the perfect words for it, but listening to Little Cato was not the best idea at all.
Right.
We also get to see Quinn and alternate timeline Quinn, as we'll call her.
Let's call her Future Quinn, because she says she comes from the future, but it's like an alternate future.
Oh, I was going to say at Quinn, but Future Quinn.
Well, let's call her at Quinn. Let's call her
at Quinn.
Okay.
At Quinn has a thing for Gary, and this is something that in my video I'm probably going to spend 5 hours talking about. Gary is not really as interested in Quinn. He's more interested in the Quinn that he knows, the present-day Quinn, despite the fact that the present-day Quinn does not like Gary, but Quinn, as far as he knew, liked Gary. I also found that very interesting as well. In fact, the entire scene, Gary's completely nude, and Quinn is just coming on to Gary pretty strong, but for a reason.
Yeah.
Because Quinn wants to handcuff Gary to his bed so that Quinn can destroy Mooncake. Trying really hard not to call him Moon Pie, but it keeps coming up in my brain. Quinn has been doing this for a while, trying to fix things. Pretty much, according to Quinn, the only way that things can get fixed is if Mooncake, it's gonna happen, Mooncake gets destroyed. Now, obviously, Gary doesn't want that. And this leads into Quinn and Quinn battling. This leads into Gary getting into the mix of it. And there's a standoff in the middle of space where Gary, Quinn, and Mooncake are standing off with Quinn. And that scene was also pretty amazing. And the ending scene itself, the ending scene was just so much. Because we learn... And I believe, is this the right episode or am I? Oh yeah, that's just a sneak peek. But yeah, the ending scene itself was so much, a little much in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
We see that Little Cato and Kevin, I believe, right?
Yep.
They were entering the same ship that I believe Quinn used to initially help out Galaxy 1, the Galaxy 1 ship itself. However, it led into them being time distorted, for the lack of a better word. And they were eventually going to disintegrate into nothing, and this led into Quinn helping them out because there was no way they were going to get out by themselves. And yeah, that entire ending scene, a little much, but I totally it all kind of fits together, and this episode also plays off of the idea of trust, as well.
My thoughts on the episode: I thought it was pretty good, especially coming off of episode 6. It did a good job of showing Lil Kato obviously not wanting to be around anyone at first. I like that aspect. I also like how Gary and Little Kato find that common ground by talking about Avocado. You know, they kind of can reminisce on their memories of him, and that's kind of the bridge that gets them to start talking and getting along with each other. One thing I like is when they're walking out of Avocado's room and like they've all got the guns. Mooncake just carrying this knife in his mouth. Oh my god. Freaking kills me. Dude, Mooncake is the best character for stuff like that. It's so freaking cute. He's just carrying this knife in his mouth. Like, what is he gonna do with a knife?
Yeah.
He is literally the most powerful, like, death laser in the universe. What does he need a knife for? He is literally a living weapon. What does he need the knife for? Like that's why it's funny. It's like, oh my god, Mooncake's so funny. I love him. But yeah, as for the rest of the episode, the scenes with Quinn are pretty interesting. There's a lot of sexual tension in the one part. I love the joke where the robots are like, they're like, I didn't even realize I could get aroused. And it's like, and the one like covers his like groin, and it's just funny because it's like, you know, they're robots, but you can literally feel the sexual tension in that scene. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good overall. It was interesting. The standoff was pretty cool. I also like how they kind of address the whole paradox thing where Quinn's like, wait, I'm meeting myself from the future. Wasn't this called a paradox? And future Quinn Quinn literally just says, well, Einstein was wrong. And that's
Einstein's
like
a jerk. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's their explanation. But it's like, you know, I like that because they acknowledge the whole theory of like time travel and whatnot. Because, you know, a lot of people, when it comes to time travel and writing, if you don't do it right, you know, it's not going to make sense. like, even though it doesn't make sense based on, again, Einstein's theory, the show acknowledges, well, hey, in our universe, Einstein is wrong. So, like, the fact that they're addressing it and they're, like, telling us, like, up front, it's like, this isn't a paradox. In this universe, paradoxes don't happen. You know, it's fine. Then it's like, okay, that's how the laws of the final space universe works, I guess. Which is, it's an interesting little detail that I thought was worth pointing out, but that's all I really have to say about episode 7.
Chapter 8. My favorite episode by far. Even more than episode 4, episode 6, and episode 10.
Jay, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there an intro?
There is intros. And in fact, with this intro, he actually switches from minutes he has left surviving to cookies being baked. So that just makes me like this episode even more.
If I could actually point something out, that's taken from the pilot. Have you seen the pilot?
I have not seen the pilot.
In the pilot, basically what's happening, the pilot is slightly different, but there's a shot. The pilot basically opens up to a countdown timer of Hugh saying, Gary, the cookies will be ready in blah, blah, blah minutes. And it's a shot of Gary sitting on the floor with Avocado dead in his arms, reminiscing on the past. And that's kind of what these intro parts, you know, do, where he's like, you know, just talking about things that come to mind, whether it's, you know, like the shade from the last one, or here where he has him change it to a countdown timer for the cookies being ready. Yeah, that's taken straight from the pilot. I thought it was worth pointing out. So there's an interesting fun fact for you.
So with the team together, we have Quinn, Hugh, Kevin, Gary, Mooncake, and the miscellaneous bots, and Little Cato. Not sure if I'm missing anyone.
No, I believe that's everyone.
Gary becomes the pseudo leader, but he kind of doesn't understand that he doesn't really know what to do, and they keep flashing back to him with the webcam freaking out, and that was incredibly funny because it's happening as he's doing that. So I don't know if he said, wait, can you guys give me a moment, and did that, came back and said, wait, can you guys give me a moment, and did that again.
Right.
That entire scene where essentially to get out of the position that they were in, they had to fly directly, and this is coming from Quinn, who's in an alternate timeline, who has did this before, fly directly into a sun, and that's the only way because Hugh didn't know. They had Gary pilot it so that if they enter it a certain way, even if they're a meter off, they would burn alive. But if they were entered it a certain way, I believe the word they used was aperture.
Yeah, I believe so.
They enter interspace, and they need to be in interspace because it's a space between everyone and our space, quote unquote, their space. And the Titans they tell the story of basically these ultra powerful, giant, colorful, unique creatures that control and fight over other dimensions, pretty much. And that there was one Titan that didn't necessarily want to hurt dimensions, and he ended up becoming it's actually quite similar to the Avocado story in a way.
Right.
He's like the only one who really didn't want to go the way of the evil that was happening. He got imprisoned, and that Titan is kind of the only way that they can receive help in the situation that they're in. And the situation that they're in, I don't know if we explained it before. I don't know if it's explained in this episode. There is I guess you would call it an interdimensional portal in a way.
They define it as like a breach.
Yeah, breach.
That's the word that they use.
And that breach is the only thing stopping them from going into final space. Lord Commander wants to go into final space, and he needs Moon Pie's power in order to open the breach, reach final space, become a Titan, and rule the dimension, galaxy, universe that he pleases, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So we reach this world where the only good Titan, I forgot his name though.
Bolo.
Bolo?
Bolo.
Bolo.
Voiced by Keith David.
Voiced by Keith David.
Yep.
They have to enter through 479 or 59 different, what was it? Brain something.
Mines or something. I know what you're talking about. I forget the proper word.
Man. It was mine something, but
mm-hmm.
I also found that scene pretty funny because he took the first one pretty good, second, and then later on he kind of just his eyes started bleeding. That's probably the best way I can put it. His eyes started bleeding. They also called I guess you would call it a not a butler, but
the blue
gatekeeper, welcomer.
Yeah.
The giant flaming M&M, yes. They called him a giant flaming M&M. And I wasn't necessarily a fan of the whole warping scene, but we'll get to that. Freaking Kevin was also at his annoying height in this episode. We're getting into the part that I really enjoy. We have the alternate realities. The giant flaming M&M says, one of you guys have to confront him. It's already been predetermined. It's going to be Gary. You have to confront the Titan Bolo so that we can show you how to close the breach. And Gary ends up meeting other different alternate reality versions of himself, including this very arrogant mustache dude who's pretty rude, not gonna lie. The Titan Bolo guy says, "You're not good enough. You're not following in the footsteps of your father." And Gary agrees, and there's no reason for him to not agree, because this entire time Gary has been kind of fighting a facade. I mean, yeah, he could get there, but he's not there, but he could get there. And so Titan is right in a sense, and it does get to him. In fact, it literally gets to him, because this pool of anxiety, literal anxiety, he gets pretty much soaked in, surrounded in. And he realizes that, yeah, he's not as good as his father. But speaking of his father, he actually ends up getting to meet him in this, again, alternate reality, alternate timeline, where he meets his father, but he has to prove to his father that it's him. Very touching scene. It calls back to the other time where he hallucinated.
Yep.
And we actually get a pretty big reveal that the person that Gary's father, has been working with was a younger, relatively anyway, Lord Commander.
Yep.
And the scene in which they beat up Lord Commander is just incredible. It's I've worked for him for multiple years. But yeah, now he's evil. Let's beat him up. Sure. And then they just beat up poor Lord Commander, who at the time seemed like he was still good.
He was. It's shown, but yeah.
Yeah, it's shown that he was good. So it makes me think, when did he turn?
Oh, I can tell you that, but
then, yeah, the entire conversation with his father, I would want other people to see, so I can't, and I won't talk too much about it. But that entire scene with his father, Gary really needed that, because at that time, he kind of, Avocado was the closest thing of a person who is there, who is wise, and can tell him things, because Gary did come across as this person who he was putting on a lot more than he necessarily could deliver, and a lot of times he was saved by other people. In fact, initially he was saved by Mooncake with the asteroid scene, and he gets saved by pretty much everyone else, and he kind of needed that, because if he was going to be the leader, then he needed to act like a leader. And it was very important to the story for that scene to happen. We also found out that you could be made up of final space, In fact, when the breach explodes, because, and again, I don't want to spoil too much, but long story short, Gary's dad sacrifices himself with a nuclear bomb, ice bomb, what is
plasma bomb. I think it was plasma.
Really powerful bomb, and sacrifices himself to close the breach. We then learn that when the breach closed, the Mooncake essentially appeared out of what kind of remained of it. The greenish blob sort of remains of it. So it is implied through that, if all of that is on the up and up, that Mooncake is sort of Gary's dad, and that Gary's dad never truly left him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason why Mooncake is so close to Gary and not truly anyone else, because they're already close. So that's why there's just so much about this that makes this the best episode to me, and my favorite episode.
Mm-hmm.
If for anything else, if you don't believe that this show creates like more emotions, this episode will probably do it for you. Most likely do it for you.
Absolutely.
But is there anything else I missed?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and also Little Cato
mm-hmm.
and Gary, they connect at the end.
They do.
Over a similar loss.
Yeah, they both lost their fathers. Also, Quinn leaves. She says she's no longer needed, so she leaves the group. To answer your question about the Lord Commander becoming evil, there's a quick shot. It happens in like a second. But as the plasma bomb goes off and Final Space, the breach kind of like explodes, you see the Lord Commander, who's actually named Zach. You see a wave of like the purple-ish magenta color. You see it come and pass through him, and his eyes kind of do this glowy effect. That kind of serves as the origin of, I'm assuming it serves as the origin of where his powers came from. He got them from the explosion of Final Space being destroyed by the plasma bomb. Now, why he suddenly gets the evil motives, that's not entirely clear, but for where his powers came from, at least, yeah, it's from the same explosion that his dad sacrifices himself with. So, there's the answer to that question, at least. Again, it only happens for a split second. It's a blink and you miss it moment, but it's there. Aside from that, yeah, it's a quality episode. I really like it. It's very deep for Gary's character, especially because it builds upon what was seen in episodes 1, 3, and 4. I really like the dynamic with his dad and the conversation they have together, kind of talking about, how even if Gary doesn't succeed in the future, the fact that
do the best you can.
Yeah, do the best you can. That's good enough for his like that's really memorable line. I thought that stuck out. Yeah, it's definitely one of the best. Episode 6 is still my favorite, but this is probably top 3. 2 or 3 for me.
Chapter 9. Chapter 9. Now you're probably asking, did this have the same intro as all the others? Yes. Hugh also kind of had his moments during this intro. We've grown to accept Hugh as more than just the ship robot. He's definitely his own character.
He's definitely his own character. Yes.
I also wrote in my notes, punch Kevin in all caps. I don't know what he did in this episode that made me do that. But yeah, punch Kevin, please. New York joke was low-hanging fruit, and I'm not just saying that because I not reside, but was born there. Gary and Quinn, yeah, this is also pretty heavy on Gary and Quinn. We also get Mech Suit Kevin. Many Kevins, actually. So Kevin isn't just, it wasn't just a singular bot, it's actually a group of bots. It's kind of weird that, wait, I'm assuming the other Kevins got destroyed somehow.
I don't know if they got destroyed. It's kind of like they were there and then they just didn't go along.
Yeah, right?
They just kind of stayed.
Oh yeah, also turtles. This was pretty brutal on turtles. The action towards the beginning with them shooting the Infinity Guards, that was also pretty fantastic. We had Gary asking Quinn to drink fluids together, and at this point, you would think that they're close enough to where Quinn would accept, and Quinn doesn't necessarily accept. In fact, the whole scene is even enhanced when Quinn is trying to reason her way through what's happening, and she does a sort of a cartwheel. Gary replicates the cartwheel. It goes terribly wrong for Gary. Yeah, that was also a very interesting scene. After this, we have, I forgot exactly who helped them out. Was it just more Infinity Guards?
It was they were gonna execute them, you mean?
Yeah. Was it just more Infinity Guards?
I think it was just 2 Infinity Guards.
Okay. Yeah. At that was also a neat moment because we have Gary and Quinn truly like connecting for once. I also don't want to forget this because this is also like I said, Kevin, pretty interesting character. We had Gary trying really hard to give Kevin a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Very, very funny moment. Like you hear me say it and then you're like, it can't be that funny. Yes, it was. Sound effects included.
Yeah, definitely.
We then get to meet the Resistance, which consists of Quinn's right-hand man, Tribor?
Mm-hmm.
Tribor, and some lady that really likes Tribor in the same way that Gary really likes Quinn. We also get a pretty nice date in the same place that they met. A little cheap for her to get hit. Wait, no, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Yeah, but yeah, pretty nice date in the place that they first met during the flashback. And
in the first episode, yeah.
Yeah, and this is where he realizes that the guy has been alive all this time while essentially the Earth is going through mass chaos and destruction. And he realizes that he actually didn't do the right thing. He actually didn't do the right thing at all. And it was a really nice transition. It's kind of like the SpongeBob bubble transition, but yeah, for them to be underwater, going after the other bomb, essentially, to close the breach off in their timeline, quote unquote.
Right.
But yeah, and during this, like I said earlier, Quinn gets hit by a rock in the middle of it. And it was a little cheap, but, you know, whatever they have to do to get tension through. And obviously, and it's funny because at this point he was like, you know, I would tell you to stop, but I know you're not going to listen. And he doesn't listen. Yeah. And for good reason, because they actually do end up rescuing Quinn with the help of Mooncake. With new people now, because now we have Tribor and his resistance in a way, because it does end up helping again.
Mm-hmm.
We also have Lord Commander, like not the Lord Commander that got beat up in episode 8, but the actual Lord Commander. He was also there. I just found episode 9 to be a really great episode to lead into what would be the season finale. So the finale. I found this episode to include a lot of points, close enough doors, but leave most of the main doors open. I found this episode to serve as that great sort of bridge between what I loved about episode 8 and what episode 10 would end up being. So yeah, that's what I enjoyed about chapter 9.
Yeah, for me, for the most part, it was pretty much just Quinn and Gary becoming a thing, in terms of their relationship, actually, it's, Quinn's finally accepting of Gary and wants to see where it goes. I liked pretty much everything you said. I really enjoyed the way Earth was shown as, it's essentially desolate because so many people have abandoned it because it's doomed. It's about to be consumed, and there's, people have given up on it. They've gone elsewhere. I really liked the way the lava looked. It looked really good in episode 3 as well, but just the way when Mooncake's kind of dodging the lava as it shoots up through them, or shoots up at them through the water. I just really like the way that scene looked.
Yeah.
And it kind of Mooncake was dodging around. And then when Gary and Quinn are just floating up because gravity is being manipulated by the
yes
breach pulling everything off of Earth. I just really like that moment. And you also see the guy who is in the bar. He wakes up, opens the door, and he sees he's floating up, and he just freaks out and slams the door back shut. It's
holy.
Yeah, it's could you imagine being in a 5-year coma and then waking up to that? And then he just
floats up from the bathroom stall as if there wasn't
terrifying. Yeah, seriously. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I really like episode 9, and it ends off with a good segue into episode 10 with all the characters, ready to take down the Lord Commander aboard the Galaxy 1. They're ready to finally end this thing. So let's be like them and end things off with the final episode, shall we?
Chapter 10. Guess what? Intro did not happen.
0 out of 10. Worst episode.
Chapter 10.
0 out of 10. 0 out of 10. Don't eat. Nope. It's over. Nope. No,
it didn't happen.
I'm just kidding.
It's teasing you. Okay, it's slowly getting there, and that leads you to think that okay, all right, fine, maybe it's not during the beginning. Because my entire thought process while watching this is, when does this part happen?
Right. I was thinking the same thing when I was watching it.
Gary's speech was amazing. Like I said, he really needed, everything in episode 8 was so needed. And if I had a small pick against the show as a whole, maybe a lot of people disagree. I just wish we saw more of Lord Commander sort of slowly dying, because we don't really see a lot of it when you actually look back at the entire series. We just see a lot of shots that get the point across, but if we saw more shots of just him coughing up blood or something like that, or him slowly deteriorating, but still showing that he's very powerful, I feel like that would help a lot.
If I could add to that one nice detail that does show that, but it's never really acknowledged. It's just something you have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Every episode, his appearance, he gets progressively worse. I mean, I agree that it's not explicit, and we see him cough in episode 3, and we see him cough in episode 6, but other than that, most of his damage is, it's subtle, it's subdued. You don't really, it's not at the forefront. It's something you have to kind of pay attention to when you see him appear, which, I mean, I like that because it shows that he's aging even off screen. But yeah, it could have used maybe a little bit more attention. I'll agree there.
Because he's still the most powerful. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
We have, man, what would you even call it? A swarm of these nanobots attacking the ship's, I guess, shield generator, for the lack of a better word, considering I play games like this and they use words like shield generator. And it just looks so disgusting because just imagine a swarm of bugs surrounding your window or something. They're all just slowly crawling around, but in this case, they're slowly trying to get in. We have, oh yeah, I remember this line. He was like, and if Kevin doesn't get to the top of the ship and defend, I'm going to beat him within an inch of his life.
Yeah. I thought that was funny too. That was a good line.
They slowly do get through, and we just have Mooncake and Kevin fighting the swarm, and that part is just so incredible. Like, it just makes you really want to get into the scene and, like, help them out and stuff like that. I found that to be truly entertaining. We also... Oh, yeah, there's just so much in episode 10. We also have... When they go and they retrieve the bomb, there's a small moment before where essentially it loops the part with where it shows that Gary's dad is slowly closing it and preparing the bomb for its detonation.
Mm-hmm.
That was also a really, really nice touch, as well as Tribord painting it with Flames color.
Right.
That was also a really nice touch. We have Quinn and Gary fighting over the bomb, and we also get the kiss that we've been longing for. So if you want to know if this is going to be one of the shows where we never get anything, and you kind of just have to go to fanfiction.net and do it yourself, or look on DeviantArt, no, you don't. Episode 10, but watch it all the way through.
Yeah.
We do get that, and Quinn says, "Don't die before I get back." That's pretty important because Quinn is carrying the bomb that she's going to, quote, plant when she gets there. However, little do we know, I mean, I kind of assume this, but little do we know, supposedly anyway, when the ship is reaching the breach, a lot of energy is kind of chipping away at the ship being able to get there. So she would have to eject from the ship and go in herself, which is weird because you would think that the ship would have more protection in her suit, but I'm not going to look into that. So, not without a decoy, they do also release a decoy so that everyone focuses on one thing, while the actual bomb is going through another place. And we also have Little Kato going directly for the Lord Commander. We also have Gary attacking these nano... what would you even call it?
Drones.
Because I know they had a specific.
I know they
had
did
a specific
too.
name.
Oh,
and we also, and also in addition of Little Kato, we also had the ship security bots, and one was like, "Is this what dying is?"
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be like this. It's kind of boring, but okay. Little Kato finally facing off with the Lord Commander for a very, very short amount of time. Like, it was so short, but, man. Like, I know Little Kato probably would have wanted a lot more.
Right.
But, before we get to that, though, we also have, because Lord Commander sees that priorities should be shifted in a different direction, he grabs Mooncake directly, because Mooncake and Kevin were on top of the ship defending against a swarm. Kevin also dies, or gets destroyed, and you would think this would be the point where Gary goes, "I'm sorry for being rude to you for all these months and years." No, he's really happy.
Yep.
Kevin finally died. He's extremely happy about that. But before Mooncake leaves, one of the I'm gonna keep getting stuck on this. What would you even call them? I'm gonna call them bug bots.
The drones? I just call them drones.
One of the drones stabs Gary really, really badly, but good thing he has that futuristic wound stopper that was also used when his arm was ripped off. Gary then ends up with a broken ship, by the way, with only one pulsar of two working, charging the ship directly into Lord Commander, despite the fact that Lord Commander was shooting a lot of turrets in his general direction. But it was a really brave scene, and like I said, Gary really needed that. But going back to the whole Little Kato and Lord Commander scene, Little Kato was about to take a shot and kill Lord Commander if it wasn't for, again, Gary leading his ship directly into Lord Commander's main mothership, I guess you would call it. And it would prove to be too late, as Mooncake is just suffering in the background, connected to this beam. Lord Commander gets, shocks himself back into power. And it ends up helping because as Gary tries to shoot at Lord Commander, it doesn't work. And that leads into a giant beam being sent into the breach of space. which leads into a Titan. I don't know if this is... I'm assuming this isn't... what's his name? Bino? It's not Bino.
Bolo?
Bolo?
Yeah, that's the name, but no, it's not him. It's a different one.
It's just a random Titan leading his hand in. It's not taking Lord Commander and making him into a Titan as he wishes. It's actually taking Earth.
Yep.
But since the breach is still open, this is when we learn that Quinn can stop the breach by just sacrificing herself with the bomb. Gary obviously doesn't want that, but Quinn has to do that. And as you can tell, obviously Kevin died. Little Kato just gets blasted off. We don't know if he's really died. We just know that he gets... And in space, you can't just shift your direction the way that you want. He's kind of just blasting off in a different direction, right? All the security systems died. Quinn died. Avocado died much earlier. Tribor died somewhere in the process. I don't even remember that. All of these people are dying except for Gary, and that's when we learn that all of those intros, because of the blast that Quinn created when closing the breach of space, it kind of blew back everything.
Yep.
And that kind of left and the ship is destroyed because obviously he sent that into Lord Commander. It left Gary in the endless void of space.
Yep.
With Hugh, because Hugh hasn't died yet. Hugh was going to die because the ship was so badly damaged, but Gary commanded Hugh to essentially switch his AI into his ship. And the episode and season ends, well, it appears to be ending anyway, with Gary floating in the void of space. There's no more time left. There's no Mooncake to help him because Mooncake was consumed in the blast, I believe. I don't know if it was shown that if anything happened after the blast. So I'm assuming that he was consumed within the blast. And then that's when we see that he's kind of in this afterlife. He meets his father, and his father informs him that there is a choice for him to come back. But he could either go back or he can stay with his father up in this afterlife with tons of imported beer. And the question he has for his father is, which way is Quinn and everyone else? And that question was not answered. And that's how the series ends. He was given that choice.
Yep.
And I feel like because they didn't know if they were getting a season 2, if they weren't getting a season 2, that would probably be the best way to go out. Leaving essentially Gary lifeless and dead in space. Because if they weren't getting a season 2, then imagine watching this 10 years from now and seeing if, there was going to be an option for him to survive.
Yeah.
It would look a little weird because we wouldn't know what would happen after. So I feel like that was a pretty good ending. But at the very end, we see a small shard of light, and that implies what choice Gary made.
I mean, you pretty much just summed up the entire thing. There isn't much else I have to add from this one. The action is great. I definitely like a lot of the space battles that they have going on. I think it's a solid. It's an overall solid ending. I've seen others have been critical of the ending, saying it's not that great. Though I haven't looked in depth as to what those criticisms are. Personally, after my first viewing, I think it's fine. I definitely like the way it ended, but I don't know. There's a part of me that sorry, voice crack. There's a part of me that had a feeling that they knew this was going to get a season 2. But because season 2 was just announced a few days ago at the time of this recording. And it feels like it had been renewed for a season 2, but they waited to announce it until season 1 ended. I feel like that's probably what happened. I mean, I don't know this for sure. This is all conjecture and speculation, but I don't know. To me, the way it ends like that with the light beam and just the whole quote cliffhanger ending. It feels like it got a season 2, like they knew they'd have a season 2 ahead of time. Again, I could be wrong, and I could just be, making up a theory that's not true, but I don't know. That's just kind of the way I saw it. As an episode itself, there wasn't that much comedy here this time. It was all seriousness, and I can respect that because it is a finale. It is like the final chapter, literally, of this season. It's time to wrap everything up, and I appreciate that it was more serious this time around, because the show definitely gets seriousness, to a T. Even though it's listed as a comedy series, Final Space is very dark and very serious and very character driven, and I like that's what draws me in most, is not just that it's dark, because like darkness doesn't automatically make it good, but it's character driven, and it's not just a comedy show, and it's not just a sci-fi show. It's very deep and very like it values its narrative. It takes itself very seriously while being fun along the way, and that's what I appreciate about it the most, is that it takes itself seriously. It's not zany, wacky ridiculousness. There are shows for that, and I like shows that do that, but I like this one for being, more grounded. It has a mission that it wants to accomplish, and I think it does a good job of that, because it tells a very compelling story. It creates very interesting and unique characters, each of which have individual personalities and traits. So it's like, exactly who every single character is. They're all easily identifiable. They all have very important roles. It doesn't feel like any character is unnecessary, except for, I feel like Tribor could have a little bit more significance, because he's like Quinn's sidekick for the first couple episodes, and then he disappears all the way until episode 9. So I feel like he could have had a little more of a role. And Kevin can be annoying.
Yeah, Kevin could be. He could be incredibly annoying.
But aside from those, I still love every other character in the show. Mooncake's my favorite, as I've said. Gary's a great main protagonist. David Tennant does an excellent job at portraying the Lord Commander. Hugh, Tom Kenny, another great character. Quinn is great. Avocado, Lil Avocado, like they're even with Kevin being annoying, there isn't a single character I outright hate in this show. Like,
yeah, exactly.
And that's what makes it so great, because in a lot of shows, even a great show like Rick and Morty, because a lot of people like to make
some people don't like Beth and Jerry.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not a fan of Jerry myself, and a lot of people like to make comparisons to Rick and Morty with Final Space. Personally, they're two very...
No, I don't see it.
I don't see it either. They're two very distinct and different shows. Like, they barely...
Yeah.
Other than the fact that there's, like, sci-fi elements, they are two completely different shows and have almost nothing to do with each other.
Two completely different philosophies and ways of handling humor and everything.
Completely. And they're both good.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Do their styles
that's
right.
What I was talking about earlier, Shadow. Of course they're going to compare it to Rick and Morty, because Rick and Morty is like the only other show that's really popular that has this element of sci-fi, because everything is fantasy. And that's what I'm getting at. Like, everything is either fantasy or it's an episodic comedic show. Like I feel like we need more, even if the third thing is going to be sci-fi. Like, if we can just get more shows that are not direct, because I get it, fantasy is the thing right now. The way that celebrity endorsed cartoons were a thing of the past, or gross out cartoons was a big thing on Nickelodeon. I get it, fantasy shows are a thing now, but I don't know. If you were to tell me there's going to be another main character who's in this giant lore-building world of all this fantasy, and that it's going to be a really deep story, but it's also going to have this cutesy element to it, and it's gonna be adjusted to like a world, so they're also going to be showing how they grow up and live as a transition from a kid to a teenager. I'm sorry, I'm not necessarily going to be the most excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, it is starting to get a little old. Like, I would also appreciate some more
Variety.
Diverse genres. Variety, exactly.
Yeah, variety.
Because, I mean, that's what's making Final Space stand out so much, is because it is so unique and different. It's like, I feel like I don't say this very often, but I feel like I've never watched a show like Final Space before.
Neither have I.
Because it's just so different, it's so fresh, it's so new. There aren't that many cartoons that, even in recent times, like Unikitty or Craig of the Creek, even though yeah, they're good shows, but they don't stand out the way Final Space stands out.
I mean, yeah, Mighty Magiswords had YouTubers connected to it, but I think a lot of the humor and stuff that I find funny on YouTube really translated here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was subtle, like the Mooncake seeing Gary under his towel, the reaction he made there, or if it was very direct with, like I said, the scene where Gary is sliding down this pole with his, like he's holding his hand and he's using it as a zip line. I feel like the comedy translates incredibly well, and I agree with everything that you said. This is a series that I didn't think that we needed, that I'm really glad that we have.
Absolutely.
And the only thing I wish they changed in season 2 is the intro.
Yeah.
Now, will you be covering this show again in the near future?
Yes, I will be.
Like I said, I will be as well. I plan to do something special for it, so it won't be out anytime soon. And I also plan to get out some other things that I've been promising, like Total Drama Island season review and review 100. So when those things come out, I'll focus more on Final Space. And who knows, maybe I'll have it out around the time, or maybe in the middle, if I'm going to be completely realistic, when Final Space season 2 is coming around. But I'll try to have it so that I'm not directly interfering with season 2 while talking about season 1, unless it comes out incredibly quick. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think, and I'm not 100% sure on this, because again, it depends on when it comes out, that I may cover Final Space as as a main series, but with as much priority as possible. When a new episode comes out, like the day after or a couple days after, talking about it or making a review on it. And I don't think I've ever done that for a series before. I know Shadow has before with Samurai Jack.
Right.
And I feel like Final Space is going to be that for me. There hasn't been any other show that has interested me enough to do that. Not Gumball, not Steven Universe, not Star Versus, not Teen Titans Go. Definitely not that. Not SpongeBob. None of these shows. Final Space has been the first for me the first show for me to even think about committing to covering it.
Yeah.
As soon as it comes out on a very topical basis, I guess is the best way I can put it.
Yep.
We are going to be doing a Q&A. If you have listened this far, we will be answering your questions. I will make sure to put a community post, put it on Twitter, put it in the pinned comment. I know Shadow will also do some of these things as well. And we'll answer any questions that you have. We'll get to as many as we can.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, let us know what you think of Final Space in the comments down below. And if you don't know Shadow, feel free to check out his channel. It will be in the card description. He'll most likely be in the comments section. Feel free to check him out. Follow him on Twitter. Follow me at the ALPHAJ Show on Twitter, at A Shadow Streak for him as well. And we'll see you guys in the next Castoon. Talk to you guys later.